Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum, and if you're wondering how to beat the Wasp-Worm combo, this is the game for you. Let's go. At the bottom here, I am playing as a marksman specialist. I am up against a very strong 201 server player. His name roughly translates into Mecha Commander Instructor. He is around 1900, and I am currently at 1800 MMR, and he's playing as a supply specialist. In round one, I am with the Tarantulas as well as my 4 marksmen. It is one of the compositions that I enjoy playing because the Tarantulas serve both as a tank, but also as chaff clear, allowing my marksmen to deal the damage. I bought 2 squads of fans. I put one of them really all the way up close to the midline. The reason I do that is I want to draw as much of my opponent's army towards the midline as possible. I had the other fan on the side here. Now, I wasn't expecting my opponents to go aggro into this position, but it seems like he picked the right side to aggro. And I won't have any chaff clear after this Tarantula has been gunned down by this triple marksman. So it's going to be an easy win for my opponent for round 1. But as they say, round 1 really doesn't even matter, because round 2 is really where the fun begins. Alright, round 2. Had to make a decision here. I needed something to cover my Tarantula so it doesn't get gunned down immediately. My opponent already has ample chaff clear on the ground with these 2 squads of sledgehammers, so if I add fans or crawlers, they're probably going to die pretty soon, probably sooner than I'm able to clear off his chaff, which is a bit conservatively placed, right? So you see these fans are placed on the same line as these sledgehammers, so they're going to be a little bit more difficult. So what I ended up doing was taking the mass-produced WASP card. It's one of those cards that I don't see a lot of, but in this situation, I think it makes a lot of sense because all I needed to do is to stop these marksmen from shooting at my tarantulas, but then the tarantulas can tank against the sledgehammers. And mass-produced wasp is the extremely cheap way of achieving that purpose. These wasps cost only 100 supply, and they are able to tank quite a few shots from these marksmen. Now, opponent added 2 squads of Stonecrawlers. Stonecrawlers are excellent against tarantulas due to their slow movement as well as their relatively large size, right? So a tarantula, I think, is about the same size, well, slightly smaller than a scorpion, but it's large enough for all of the missiles from the Stonecrawlers to hit. Alright, round 3. Mustang makes a little bit of sense. I think it does help with the chaff clear, but in this case, I needed something to pick up the sledgehammers a little faster than my marksman. The Sabertooth is a great option. Not only allows you to do anti-missile in case my opponent does decide to go heavier into Stonecrawlers, it's also a great option of just picking up these sledgehammers. I am expecting my opponent to go a little harder into the Stonecrawler just because of how good they are against the Tarantula. So I am going to take anti-missile this turn as a hedge against that potential move. I saw my wasp here expecting a counter, and indeed there is a counter in the form of his wasp and also his fangs. I've added additional crawlers up front, expecting, now knowing that he has stormcrawlers here, and now expecting he's not going to defend the Stonecrawler as hard. So at least I want to get the crawlers in there to snipe out his Stonecrawlers. The sandworm is interesting. I think the sandworm is a very current and also a meta build, so sandworm with wasp can be very strong. My Sabertooth are doing fairly well against the worm. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I have enough firepower just to take everything out from my opponent. Now that was a huge power debuff, allowing this orange man to snipe multiple units, even these sledgehammers. And that's going to swing the battle here, because I still have a tarantula left, and after he's done with the tower, It's going to come down and mop up the rest of the fans. All right, round 4 is gotta be Junior Man. I have no intention of going to Giants because right now there's nothing on the board that really a Giant could answer. If the unit drop gives me a melting point, I'll probably take it just for the purpose of getting rid of the sandworm. But in the time being, I wanted to take Junior Man because I know in order for the WORM+WASP combination to work, he needs to have enough wasps, and I need to eventually either answer with my wasp or with Mustangs. But for now, I'm still testing the water. I need to make sure that it is indeed a WORM+WASP meta. So I added more of my cheap wasps. Now remember, his wasp costs 200 a pop, and mine costs 100 a pop. So it's a lot easier for me to swap out of the wasp than it is for him. Now granted, my wasp is not going to beat his wasp in the long run because he also has aerial spec. And the problem with mass-produced wasps is that you're going to take... quite a bit of a hit, 30% attack, 30% HP, making it a lot more difficult to contest in the mirror matchup. But that's okay. Once I confirm that it is indeed going to be Sandworm Wasp, then I have an opportunity to switch out of Wasp and potentially getting into Mustangs. Alright, so this turn we see ground spec on the Wasp. Now I just need to see range on the Wasp, and this would have confirmed my suspicion. Now, before I go full on into the Mustangs, because I have so many Wasps already on the board, I wanted to make sure that he wastes one technology slot and just get aerial spec. I want to feint a Wasp carry to force him to go with that additional technology, and then I would just slowly sell out of that. I can do that only because right now my wasps are so cheap. They're 100 a piece, and it's just chaff, and there's nothing wrong with putting more chaff every turn. All right, round 5. Now, I haven't been winning very hard so far. I was contemplating about subsidized steel balls because they do work quite well against Sandworm. However, I saw the orbital jab, and I figured, you know what? That might be an opportunity just to get an orbital jab right here. I was hoping to catch the Stormcaller, but then my opponent did sell his Stormcaller, so the only units I am going to catch is probably the Sledgehammers and the Orange Man. But that's alright though. I mean, sometimes your opponent just knows exactly what you're trying to do, and they'll get rid of their units, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a sign of skill. Alright, I took range on my Wasp. Range is a very good all-around card. It is better than aerial spec in this situation because I am not looking to get into a mirror matchup. But what I am looking to do is to bait out opponents, get them to heavily invest into the Wasp, and hopefully I can counter them on the ground with the Mustangs. I got a cheeky missile here getting rid of this fence. This allows my Sabertooth to better focus on the Sledgehammers instead. Now I have an overwhelming number of wasps. Now remember, I have, these are dirt cheap wasps. There are 100 supplies a pop, and their only purpose for their existence is to tank these sniper shots, which they are. And if anything that can do on top of that, for example, killing his wasp army, is gravy. So I'm very happy with this result. I think these wasps are going to stay as permanent chaff, and also a bit of chaff here, right, now that they have range. And hopefully it will force my opponent to go aerial spec. Alright, the worm is coming down. Alright, we got improved melting point. These are Giga melting points with attack increased by 50%. I took that because it works extremely well against Sandworm. One of the problems with melting point against Sandworm is the sandstorm upgrade. Once the sandstorm is triggered, then your melting point is forced to walk for another 2 or 3 seconds before he can even attack the sandworm. And that 2 and 3 seconds is going to allow the sandworm to clear out some of the units around it. And when your melting point does latch onto the sandworm, it has a probability of getting underground because it has cleared out most of the units around it. The improved melting point increases attack by 50%. It also translates that the melting point now requires 50% less time to charge up to what it would have been a full power laser beam, right? So it's going to kill that worm a lot faster. All right, continue to add wasp, and now I am seeing the true transformation of the wasp worm carry, right? So with so many wasps, and now with aerial spec, my mission is complete. I am now safely able to move away from the wasp and hopefully into the Mustangs. Now Mustang is also a little bit tricky because of the sandstorm. It does pull all of the Mustangs in, but I am feeling pretty confident with my melting point and its ability to quickly kill the sandworms, allowing my Mustang to deal with the wasp very soon after. So a pretty significant win here from my opponent. And here's the unit drop, and here are the Mustangs. Thank you, Bearlike. Level 3 Mustangs, range, aerial spec, getting ready for my opponent. He also picked the Mustangs because he saw my wasp. There's always a possibility that I also want to hit the aerial spec button, and that's going to make my opponent's life a little bit more unpleasant because I have cheap wasps. So he did also take the Mustangs, which are going to do fantastic against my mass-produced wasps. All right, took the loan, got rid of the sledgehammers, continue to add on his wasp army, which completely makes sense to me because of how heavily upgraded they are, and they're going to be the primary damage dealer in his army. So now that knowing where my opponent's carry units are, the win condition is essentially how to get rid of them before he gets rid of mine. And the answer to that is going to be range aerial spec Mustangs. It doesn't matter how much range a wasp is going to get. A range aerial spec Mustang is going to hit a maximum range of 180. That's a lot of freaking range. That's a range of a marksman with range. That's crazy. And once it latches on, as you can see on the right hand side, the wasp just melts. It doesn't matter if you're level 2, it doesn't even matter if you're level 3. Once these guys latch onto you, there is no tomorrow. Alright, he's able to overpower the left side primarily due to the sandstorm. However, I think I'm feeling pretty good on this side as they're coming in. Now the question is, am I going to get enough of them before a tower? And the answer is no. So we're in this for a couple more rounds. Okay, so now knowing what the win condition is, now we just need to make sure we get there. Smoke bomb is offered, but I think laser sight will be a much better choice here, especially on a high level Mustang. 2 more level 2 Mustangs went down, and these 2 guys are going to come as close to the front line as they can behind my heavy hitters. Their primary purpose is to catch these wasps before they do too much damage to my saber-tooth and to my tarantulas. My opponent is putting down shields, expecting the smoke bomb. And he's adding additional sandworms. Now, I played a very risky game. I did not put down a lot of shield this turn. What I wanted to do was just to get the wasp ready, get shield on fans so that they would survive twice as long against the single target shots and also the sandworm attacks. And I just want to make sure that I get these wasps. So if my opponent did pick smoke bomb, then I'm going to suffer for 2 turns. And if you put it in somewhere like here, then my units are going to have abysmal range because they're going to be smoke bomb and there's going to be sandstorm. Now, opponent didn't do it, and he instead picked oil. I think the purpose of the oil is more for slowing, because he has no unit to actually ignite anything. But if anything, he's really helping me out here, because now my Mustang can fire from the safety of the distance. And looking in the middle here, the WASP is all but cleared up. On the other side, I got a log on from my melting point onto the sandworm. It is going to take it down. And once it's done, my Mustangs are able to do his work. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I got another one that's even better. Check it out, and I'll see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.